I just wanted to let you know that I think Ram may be onto us.
Us? Oh, you and me, right. Well, then there's a problem. I guess it's like you said.
What did I say?
Oh, don't you remember? When you tried to break it off? Too dangerous, you said?
I was trying to protect you. Why are you bringing that up now?
Welcome to Series 4, Episode 32 of Conversation on Eagle Mountain, a podcast about the tribe. I'm your host, Lance, and joining the podcast panel today is Liz.
Hello.
And Tamsin,
Hello.
with episode notes done by Matt and myself. So Series 4, Episode 32. The screenplay was done by Marie McNeil. It was directed by Murray Keane, and the episode synopsis read out by myself. Ram appoints the new city leader. Ebony asks for Siva's advice on what to do about Jay, and Lex and Dee's relationship is turned on its head.
Have you seen the nominees?
Some choice. Who's this? She doesn't belong.
That's the whole point. Remember those bunch of sickos they all talk about? The chosen. The ones who worship that kid on those posters?
Yeah, Zoot. He sounds like a decent sort. Wish I met him.
She moved over to them.
Meaning?
She's a pushover.
After an unannounced city net election, in which the Morats only just get time to vote, Salene is declared the winner, with Ram confirming to a disgusted Jay that he rigged the election. So yeah, panel, what do you make of the election and Salene's meeting with Ram?
I mean, most of this is forgettable, but there are a couple notable things. I do think that it's interesting that Java, she purposely picked these leaders, researched them, as she says, and that picked Salene because she's a pushover. Of course, it's weird that she would pick leaders that we know are actually dead. I do think the city kids would notice that. Billy's been dead a long time. But anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you actually made a great point before we started the recording, which was, Salene should smell a rat here because, she was intimately involved in Billy Boy.
Yeah.
Like when Kamala were trying to kill her.
You should totally be like, wait, that should be her first clue that this is all a stitch up, because she knows for a fact that Billy Boy disappeared because the Smile literally attacked her in the street thinking the Mallrats had something to do with it. You know what I mean? That was massively big part of her storyline. And so it's weird that she doesn't pick up on the fact that, hey, what is Billy Boy even doing there? That doesn't make sense that he's there. And what is Ram up to? What does this mean? Yeah, it's just weird that someone who was so integral to that storyline doesn't recognize that this guy is gone and has been gone for a long time and sniffs out that this is sus. This whole thing is sus. I mean, I'm not saying she shouldn't run. I'm just saying I would have liked her to comment, to have noticed it. I mean, it's, let's give her flowers. She's not an idiot. So she should notice something's off about this. And even make that could be her driving motivation. Like, oh, they think they can, rig all of this. I think that, but I'm going to prove them wrong or something, but to act like it's just not happening, like the audience is stupid. I like, come on, guys. And let's see, I do think the whole vote is hilarious because of how fast it all happens. There's no announcement that there's going to be a vote like before it happens. You are literally given the candidates and the vote in less than a minute. And so it's like, how many people actually got the opportunity to vote or even be aware that one had taken place? I mean, the only reason Salene even sees it is because they just happen to be in that room when it popped up on the screen. And so if you have the majority of the city is still out in the street celebrating the fact that they have water. I'm pretty sure 90% of the city missed this vote, and that makes it
Right. Yeah.
hilarious. Like, okay, no one's gonna have a question about that. You're not gonna have problems when kids come back and find out we have a new city leader. What? When did this happen? Oh, well, I was gathering water. Like, it was so fast. It was very, very silly. And yeah, I was just like, okay, that could have all been handled way better. You know, it could have been disguised with edits or even dialogue suggesting that Salene literally finds out she's been nominated within 30 seconds of getting the job.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, you could have paced this out better.
I'd
um,
also add that Java seemed to do all that research, as you said, and yet they didn't really dig that deep into Salene. They were like, "Oh, we can sort of mold her to what we want," but they didn't think. Do you think it's a good idea to get another mole rat in here? Is that really the best suggestion that they've got?
yeah, I don't think they thought it through, but again, Java clearly didn't know that one of the leaders was dead, or she did and just thought, "Oh, the Verts are so stupid, they won't notice." I don't know. I don't. This is very sloppy. All of it's sloppy because we're idiots, the audience, so we're not supposed to
Oh
notice.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
Um,
I keep forgetting. That's the thing.
it makes sense that Jay is disgusted. I think Ved and Siva's disappointment has more to do with being worried about their current SOs who are with the Mallrats. Still the Mallrats being on Ram's radar endangers the people they're interested in, is what I think is going on there. Ved clearly doesn't want Ram honing in on the Mallrats because Chloe's there. And he's been trying to keep her as distant from Ram as possible. Even if he himself might suspect Chloe's involved in things, he doesn't throw her under the bus. He doesn't want Ram anywhere near her. And I don't know, maybe he thinks in his head that it eventually won't matter. Maybe Chloe will join them, or maybe she'll become more integrated or whatever. But her tribe being on his radar isn't a good look. It's not safe for her. So I can understand him being worried about that. And Siva might also feel similar, like even though she broke up with Lex, doesn't mean she wanted anything bad to happen to his tribe. Maybe I'm just saying, like that would hurt him, even though none of this has been. I'm just trying. I'm just none of this is actually addressed. It's possible that's why they look the way they do when they find out that the Mallrats are going to be still more front and center rather than fall to the back of Ram's mind, which is the safest place for anyone to be.
No, that's a good point. But yeah, it is kind of laughable how much the Mallrats are such far at the forefront of Ram's mind because they're everywhere,
Mm.
and he doesn't deal with them. So
From Celine's side of things, I mean, as we've said before, she is in her Amber era. She goes in, she's got a list of demands, and a lot of them are kind of the demands that Amber or Danny would have asked for. I don't think they're specific to Salene, other than, as you said previously, Liz, the school feels very Salene, maybe the hospital, but there's nothing here that I think, oh, that's got Selene's handprints on it. This is just generic. I want a better world. These are my list of demands. I mean, I like how she goes in and she's completely the opposite of everything they've expected, and they kind of have to roll with it. And the way that Ram immediately tries to bribe her and she's like, no, I'm not interested. But yeah, what did you guys think?
His flabbers were gasted. He was like, "I'm sorry, what?" You I thought this was gonna be simple. I thought, I get what they're going for here to show that Salene isn't gonna be the pushover that they thought she was going to be. But it also feels like it's for the audience too, and the audience shouldn't expect her to be a pushover at this point. Now, if this was the first appearance of Salene, we hadn't seen her in action since she came back, then yes, it'd be a big reveal to the audience that Salene comes in there and she's not steamrolled right away. But because we already have seen that Salene has been holding her own, she's been holding the small together, she deals with pride every day, that we're not surprised that she's able to come in there and make demands. So I don't know. It feels a little just lazy. I feel like it could have been done constructed better. I mean, again, as Tamsin says, her demands are incredibly generic. I just want a better world. It's not like she actually thought about the logistics of her demands, which would have actually gone further in exploring how much Salene is actually thinking about this and how she wants to approach running a city better than her tribe has in the past. And instead, it's like she's putting on city leader like a costume. City leaders just demand things and with a strong voice rather than someone who's learned from experience what it takes to be a leader. And so, yeah, it doesn't feel uniquely Salene. It feels incredibly generic. And so it's like, whatever, good for her, but who cares? Like that's how I feel. Just like, who freaking cares? None of this has any real impact except for, a moment of Ram being gobsmacked. Like, wait, what? You actually have things you want to get achieved? I wasn't expecting that. And we're supposed to be like, yay, cheer for Salene, and when really it's like, yeah, she's asking for the most basic things. And it's not impressive. Like, if she didn't ask for those things, it'd be weird. If she didn't ask for the most basic, common, again, would be way more interesting and more impressive if she went in there and said, look, these are the logistics I've been looking at and how we could actually get these things done, because she's lived in this city and she's seen her own tribe try several times to give the people what they need, on and on. That would have been impressive. That would have been interesting. But Salene doesn't do any of that. So who cares? I don't. I don't care. I'm sorry. I need to try harder to care.
Well, it's not your fault. I mean, there's just nothing really here about. I think we've come back to this several times. We've spoken about this. The issue is with Salene as this generic leader. None of it feels rooted in her character. None of it feels like Salene is the leader that has been formed by her life experiences. Whereas we believed it with Amber. We kind of believed it a little bit with Danny, but it was quite annoying. But with Salene, it's like you're not even annoyed by it. You just don't care. It's just they have to have someone who is like this. It has to be an older girl. It's Salene. She's the only one left who can fulfill this need that we have to have in the writing at the moment.
And again, as we all keep saying, it's not a problem that it is Salene, but show us some progression of how she's got here. Show us how she's trying to handle being a leader in her own way. Like, Amber, as we all said, was very democratic. She tried to use everyone's strengths in order to get to where she needed people to be. Bray was aloof, but when you force him into a corner, he'll be there. You know what I mean? He'll be that person you need to help rally the tribe together. Like you, and obviously Lex, like you use everyone in your own way as trying to be a leader, but Salene, we haven't found anything about her. Like since she started being a leader, she's just a leader. But how is she a leader? How is she approaching things in her own way? And we don't get to explore any of that.
I'd also say, I know that they were like, she went over to the Chosen, so we're going to be able to buy her. But nothing in the photo that they saw of Salene screamed, you can definitely bribe me. She had those headshots done. She was probably the only candidate who took it seriously, who probably wrote in with some sort of 5-point mission guide of what she was going to do. And Java just didn't bother to open their Word document, just like, as Liz really well put, like, who cares? It is what it is.
I'm like, good for her, but again, I just don't think this writing's very impressive. And there were cooler ways to show Salene and surprise the audience by how much thought she's put into this. Because as we'll see, that Salene doesn't know what to do with what happens if you come in, you give your demands, you give your orders as city leader, and people don't listen. She's not sure what to do then. And so that's why it feels like a costume, not like something she's really thought through and learned by watching other people around her, and has developed a singular skill of her own on hand. It's not like Salene hasn't been, it's not like she couldn't wield some of her cool manipulative tendencies for good to get what she wants, That would be interesting to see someone who has been manipulative and sneaky in the past to get what they want.
Yeah.
But instead of using it to hurt somebody, to use it to get something good for everybody else. That would be really awesome to see. Um, and it could have been uniquely Celine's. And it would have been really, I think that would have been more poignant for people who have followed her and rooted for her, even when she was at her worst, even when she was at the bottom of the depths of, going through it. People who have rooted for her, to see her re-empower herself and use that skill set that she learned and used badly in the past, come back and use it well. And that it just would have been poignant, maybe a new audience wouldn't care, but the audience that has been with you this whole time would love that. They'd be like, "Oh my gosh, that's my girl. That's our girl. Look at her, Look how far she's come," or whatever. But
Mm.
instead, it's just like, whatever, kudos, Salene. We're not going to take it, I guess. And then as soon as her method doesn't work, she's kind of at a loss. Like, oh, the manual said just to assert yourself and you'll get what you want. It doesn't say what to do next if you don't get what you want.
And that's kind of a storyline in itself, isn't it? Because Salene, having to go to get what she wants. And they just say yes to everything. And then they say, like, give us some costs. Or she has to go back to the drawing board and think, well, maybe I should have asked for more, so that she has just copied what she's seen Amber and Bray do, and she's gotten what she needed to do. But that's all. So she's actually got to think about it in a Salene way. And Salene is very maternal. She is kind of everybody's mum. And they definitely played that up this season. And I mean, Liz, you're a mum. Organization is key to being a mum, I would assume. You need to have your binders. You need to know where everybody is, what everybody needs. Has everybody got their EpiPen? She would definitely have all that to hand. She'd have gone in with costings. I can get all these people. This is the buildings I've scouted out. That would be how she would go in, I would think.
It would have gone a long way in just making me care more about what's happening here.
Yeah.
But again, it's so generic what she's asking for, how she's going about getting it. And, I mean, Ram asks a pertinent question. You want schools and hospitals. Who the frick is going to work in the schools, hospitals? And instead of already being ready for that question and being like, well, I already have a list of people who have this skill set or whatever. She's like, I'll find them. You will? You couldn't even find teachers for your school in season 2.
Let's say, yeah, you've had experience of this before.
Exactly. So you should be more prepared to answer that and to recognize the challenges of what that entails. You couldn't run a school in the mall. You had 7 students. You couldn't keep track of 2 or 3 of them the entire time. You had that class. You know what I mean? You needed Ryan constantly. Firsthand how hard it is, the logistics. You guys, you have all this experience, and it would have been great to see Salene lean on that and think, okay, so this is what we tried in the past, and this is why it didn't work. So how do we go about it this time? Instead of this generic, this is what we want, don't worry, we'll make it work. And it's like, for a fact you can't just make it work, Salene. So they really missed the mark on having the opportunity to really let Salene stand out as a different kind of leader, and one who has learned from her tribe's mistakes, trials and failures in the past,
Yeah.
And then we would remember Salene as a leader, not because they needed someone to step in until Amber could come back, but in her own right. And she deserved that because it was perfect for her storyline to have that. And instead, Salene got shafted. She got shafted out of a storyline that was perfect for her, primed for her. No one could have done this storyline better than Salene, and they completely wasted it.
Yeah.
Jay goes straight to Ebony with suspicions that Ram is onto them. Ebony, however, still upset about the faked video, uses this as an excuse to break up with him, all to Jay's confusion, though she breaks down after he leaves. Later, Ebony asks Siva for hypothetical advice on what to do about Jay.
What would you do if someone close to you was thinking about, someone else?
You mean if Lex was...
Fantasizing about other women.
I wish.
What do you mean?
If that's all he did, then fine.
So yeah, panel, we had previously discussed a lot about Ebony believing Ram's lies, but what do you make of the breakup itself, as well as Ebony's conversation here with Siva?
So we've gone from one generic storyline to another because this breakup feels so generic. It's not, it's essentially people talking across each other. It's that typical romance trope where nobody knows what's going on and they won't clarify what they're talking about. And this doesn't feel rooted in a real breakup, especially not one with Ebony and Jay involved. It just feels as generic as the whole Salene plot. Basically, we need to put a wedge between these two characters. They're going to be talking to each other, but neither of them are going to know what they're talking about. Jay isn't going to know what the breakup's about. Ebony's going to think he's insensitive and won't tell him because she won't want to. She's got too much pride to tell him what's going on. No, it is just, it is what it is, isn't it, at the end of the day? I don't know about you guys, but I felt nothing watching them talk across each other. I'd also say something that I brought up in the last episode that I think you agree with, Liz, which is this storyline about why this has happened should not be rooted in these fantasies. It should be really Ebony has realized that Ram knows that she is having a relationship with Jay, and that's why he gave her those slideshow of silly techno videos because he wanted to pique her jealousy. But she knows in him wanting to pique her jealousy, he knows that it's going on between them and that she's decided to break up with Jay to save him. She also knows that he will not leave. So, what is the outcome of this? She's trying to hide this from him, and he's come into her room and is like, I think he knows about us. But instead of that, we just get this like generic mess. And yeah, none of it feels rooted in character. Now, things that don't feel rooted in character to something that does feel rooted in character is Siva. This whole thing that's when Siva's talking about Lex and how she would rather him have had a fantasy than actually gone out and done the thing. That feels very in keeping with everything we've kind of seen about her character. It also feels mature but sad. It's a young woman talking about basically she's been cheated on. She would much rather him have cheated with his eyes than actually got into bed with Candy and cheated on her that way. And it also makes it seem Ebony seems very much like the younger sister in this moment. We've always seen that Ebony has had these levels of experience that have been more mature than a lot of the other girls in the mall. I'd say Tysan is the only other female character in the mall who's got a similar level of experience to Ebony. But in this moment, Ebony feels very immature. She feels like the younger sibling compared to Siva. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it does feel more character driven than most of the scenes we get, and I like that. Um, and it is sad that for Siva, it's just like, geez, I wish my man was just fantasizing. Like I could handle that. That'd be great if he was just fantasizing. And it is sad that that's how her life has gone. And you get the sense that even before Lex, that she will accept that. Where there are plenty of women who'd be like, that's disrespectful. I would never, because my esteem for myself is too high. I wouldn't tolerate that either. And for Siva, she's just like, man, that would be great if that's all my man was doing. You know, I would take it happily if that's all he was doing. And yes, I do like how young Ebony seems sitting here talking to her sister about the situation. Um, she does feel like the little sister trying to deal with this and show a vulnerability. Like, I don't actually know what I'm doing and if I'm handling this right. And maybe are my insecurities getting the better of me? Was there a way I could have handled this better? And looking for that reassurance from somebody to tell her, no, you handled this fine. This person did this to you, or whatever, and so I like the scene between them. And my thing that I like about the scene is that it's an honest conversation about boundaries. And I like that it leads to the decision that Ebony makes, even though I don't like the whole breakup with her and Jay. And it's just, a lot of cliches in romance that I can't stand. I can't stand we broke up because neither one of us we insist on not having an actual conversation about what's going on. That's why we're breaking up. I can't stand that trope in breakups. It drives me crazy. Um, I think if you're gonna have they break up over this misunderstanding, write it better so that my heart actually is being torn out by the fact that these two people are just misunderstanding each other. They're so close to getting it right, and they just aren't getting it. That give me that at least. But instead, it's just the laziest tacked on. They're just not. They're deliberately talking around what could be causing the problem, and I don't care about this in any way, shape, or form. And also, I think this is where you need to notice something about Jay, and the fact that when Jay prioritized his safety, maybe even Ebony's safety, his dreams, his ambitions over our relationship with Ebony. And remember, that was only a week ago. So it's not like that was months ago and their emotional states have changed and their relationships gotten deeper. No, it's like a week ago when she was like, we could risk it to be together. And Jay said, oh, heck, girl. No, girl, I don't know you that well. It ain't like that, It was right. It was fair for him to do that. But the minute that Ebony, from his point of view, is doing the same thing, because that's what he thinks she's doing. He thinks Ebony is choosing Ram for the security, the power, the safety, her ambitions over their quote unquote love. That's what he's calling it now, their love. Notice how upset he gets. And I know some people would think it's because he's fallen for her. I don't think that's what it is at all. I do think this is part of his narcissistic trait. He expects his love interest to give up things for him, to prove how much they love him, but they are not things that Jay would ever do for his love interest. He always has a reason and an excuse, and it makes sense why he can't do that. I can't do that. I'm sorry. But if the girl is like, well, I can't do that either, he's just like, how could you not do that for our love? You know what I mean? And I just thought that was interesting because it's a pattern for Jay to react this way when Ebony has her moments of being like, I don't think it's worth it. I'm not willing to make that risk. And Jay's just like, how could you? And she even calls out his hypocrisy. She's like, it's like you said, it's like you said the same thing to me days ago, Jay. And he's like, why are you bringing that up now? And it's like, because you're throwing a tantrum because now she's doing the same thing.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that Jay's never going to win Boyfriend of the Year, ever.
Not likely.
City leader, Salene. I guess I should be saying congratulations.
Yes, Lex, you should. I want to talk about policing. There has to be an emphasis on delivering a good service to the city. So, I've decided to promote Dee to sheriff.
Later, however, Dee tells Lex that nothing has changed and that they are still partners. So yeah, how did you react to Selene's first taste of power and Lex and Dee's heart-to-heart?
It's a nice moment between Dee and Lex. It would mean more if Lex was an actual character, but he's not, so whatever he's going through, who cares? But it's a nice moment between the two actors. And I don't know why anyone is surprised, especially Dee. Dee should be the least surprised that Lex got demoted because she's literally the one who told Salene about his kickback behavior. So she shouldn't be like, what? You don't want him to be leader anymore? Come on, Dee. Like, if I didn't know any better, I would think you set him up. How convenient it was that she mentioned that today to Salene. Like, oh, Lex, kickbacks, favors, da 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 da. And doesn't notice Selene's like, oh, really? That's what he's doing? Then his all shocked Pikachu face when Selene's like, you're not leader anymore. Dee is. Dee's like, what? That's not what I was trying to do. For real?
And she's basically been doing this job for ages.
Come on. Girl, you should have seen that coming. I actually would have loved it if that's what Dee was going for. Not because she hates Lex, but just more like, we'll be more efficient if I'm the one in charge, dude. Okay?
Yeah. And why not as well? Why not? Why not let her have that motivation?
Because we're not allowed to know if Dee actually wants anything ever.
Oh God. Well, I'm just gonna say, I hate the fact that Dee clearly has feelings for Lex. I loathe this. This is awful. because this is like a watered down version of Dee and Alice, but like there was chemistry between them. You could understand they'd set everything in motion for us to realise that Alice was going to fall for Lex. And she was flirting with him from the moment she saw him in season 1. You know, it was obvious. This, like you say, we know nothing about Dee. We don't know anything about her. She spawned one day, you know, in the mosquito sex den, and since then she's just been walking around. We don't know anything about her. Last week she was dressed like a mosquito. Today she's dressed something completely different. And I just hate this thing with Lex. Why couldn't they just be friends? It would be more interesting.
Mhm.
Like, especially if he thought she was into him and she's like, no.
Yeah.
And here we get our first example of them not treating Salene like an actual leader of her own.
Mm.
She's just wearing a costume as leader because the minute Lex doesn't take her orders, she doesn't really know what to do. She didn't have a second plan. She just thought, I will just be assertive and say, and even that could have still been an interesting storyline of like her learning curve of being a leader. Like if the story headline had been Selena's copying what she has seen leaders do in the past and thinks that's why they got things done because they were just assertive and pushed for what they wanted, and she's never been good at that, but she's going to do it now only to learn that's not enough, you know, blah
Yeah.
blah. That could have been a storyline too, but whatever. It's just funny that she thinks that, oh, I just need to have a boom in my voice and some confidence and they'll do what I want. And the minute Lex just walks out and she's like, I didn't dismiss you. And he's like, yeah, I know. And just leaves. You can see she's like, I don't have a backup plan for when they don't listen. Like,
Yeah,
oh my God.
this is the difference between a generic leader and someone who's written for the position. So, like Amber, going all the way back to season 1, if you thought about the way she had to deal with Lex, controlling, tricking him, playing to his ego, doing things that she felt would have been quite humiliating considering, you know, the type of girl she was, the type of person she was. But trying to do things that would stroke his ego, trying to do things that would make him fall into line, but also knowing she desperately had to keep him because they needed him. So it was all about how does she keep Lex around but stop him from seizing power. And, you know, it was interesting to see her try and walk that tightrope.
Yeah.
That's the difference between a character that's written to be a leader, and you can see the cogs in Amber's brain going all the time. And as you said, someone like Salene, who just raises the tone of her voice and is very, I would say, you know, she's very patronizing. If anything, you know, there's a way of getting Lex out of this job that doesn't make him look the way he actually is now, which is a complete idiot, and saves his face, but also gets them a sheriff that will do the work. And she hasn't tried to find that. Whereas Amber would have tried to find that.
Yeah. But again, it's like you said, it's because they didn't really think about what it means for, you know, someone in Selene's position to do this and why she became leader, because it wasn't written for her to be leader. They didn't put any thought into it. It was just
Yeah.
convenient for her to be the leader. And it wasn't because they were like, oh, we're developing Selene's character and this is like the next step in her evolution of a person. No, they weren't thinking about that at all. And it was just, well, who do we have? We need someone to take this role.
Yeah.
Oh, so we have Selene in the mall. Okay, so we'll give it to her. Cool. And that's it. That was all the thought that was put into it. And again, I can forgive it being like in the beginning you hadn't planned for Selene to have this, but now that you're here, you know, you start thinking of the reasons it works. You know, because you can retrofit a character into anything. That happens all the time in writing. Not everything you get is been planned from the start. The
Yeah.
story is actually just developing. And the writer is like, ooh, you know what? I never thought this character would do this, but now that I'm at this point in my story, this is what I think works. And let's try this. And so it's not like they couldn't actively get her into the role and make it work. It's just that they didn't even want to try. You know, they just
Yeah.
didn't care.
having worked in TV myself, I can say that sometimes the actor gets pregnant and has to be written out down the line because they're going to do maternity leave. Sometimes they leave. They've had a bunch of actors that leave. They should be prepared to do exactly what you said there, which is amend the story and sort of fix it around what they have now. You know, it's like having a colouring box and saying, well, I don't have orange or yellow, but I'm just going to use brown and pretend it is those colours. Instead of saying, okay, well, could I slightly change the drawing? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to try and round peg square hole this.
Mhm.
Because we have seen, I mean, it's not just Amber that we've seen as a leader. If you think about Trudy, when she was with The Chosen, arguably she does have, yes, she's a figurehead, but she also has a position of power, not as high as the Guardians. But Trudy, in that the whole time, was trying to work out what the limitations of her power was. How much she could ask for, how much she couldn't ask for, whether her position was performative or actually real. And we saw her trying to work that out in real time. And it was really interesting to watch this girl, who we knew really well, struggle with it in a specific way that was linked to her.
Yeah. I agree.
Mhm.
And Salene just got gypped of all of that. And it's pretty messed up because she was primed for it.
They didn't want to put in the work. It's just...
Nope.
No.
They
Well, I
did-
mean, look at Lex. If we want a great
Yeah.
example, then, you know, come on.
Yeah, he's the greatest example of you had all the potential in the world and you didn't want to do anything with it. Like,
No.
what are you? Come on, this is sad.
But I've been thinking about that. And do we think the reason why they turned him into essentially comic relief was because they didn't want to do another Lex's grieving arc because they'd already done it with Zandra?
It's not even that they didn't want to do the grieving storyline. They didn't want to do anything meaningful.
Yeah.
There's so many places his story could have gone. He doesn't have to
I
go
agree.
into depressive grieving over Tyson. Like, he could have gone into rage, like, concentrated, I've got a plan, I'm doing this. We could have seen a whole new side of Lex that we haven't. A whole different way he's grieving because what he lost is very different from what he lost before, you know? And instead, they just didn't do anything with Lex.
It is crazy because he's such a great actor, and they
Yeah.
know he's a great actor. It's not like it's a new thing to them, but like they just left him on the chopping wood floor. It's like, why? I don't get it.
This could have been the chance for them to actually take Lex, who always wanted leadership. And for the first time, he doesn't actually want leadership, and it's actually thrust upon him. And because of everything he's lost and where he is emotionally, he's actually perfect for the job.
Oh
Or
my
maybe
God,
he's
yes.
not. You know what I mean? He could still drive the tribe into the ground because he's stuck on vengeance. He could have gone like the Taken route. I'm getting my wife back. Who, you know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
we could have had this
like,
whole vengeance arc. That would have been amazing.
Yeah,
so many places they could have taken it. They just didn't want to take it anywhere.
Yeah.
Bean had that great idea about Lex essentially getting with Siva to find out where Tyson is, getting in too deep, catching feels. You know, with that revenge arc, I mean, that's like Shakespearean, dude.
Yeah. So yeah, they didn't have to do the same grief story. You know, there's so many places they could have taken Lex. This time it's like, I found happiness. I found love, you know, and I'm older this time when I've lost it. And you took my wife. Like, it did, and possibilities were endless. And they said no to every single one.
That is what it feels like.
Yeah, because there's actually no way that he would stop. You know, if Sandra had still been alive, he would have done everything. If Tyson is still alive, and he knows she's still alive, because there's no indication that any of these people are dead yet, then he wouldn't stop.
So yeah, I just think it's silly to act as though there was just no place to take him. The only place we could have taken him, it would have been, we've done it before. And it's like, okay, tell me you're creatively bankrupt if you couldn't figure out a direction to take this guy that would have been very fascinating, fun for the audience to watch. And come on, don't give me that. I don't buy it. It just sounds like you just didn't want to be bothered with it.
Mm.
Ugh.
I'd also say there's something when you scratch the surface with Lex that's kind of pathetic as well. So him realizing in real time that he's got, like you say, he's now a leader. He's got this position, but nobody takes him seriously. He's just a joke. And then him realizing that would have been, again, quite interesting.
Because if anyone was more primed to run the Mallrats in the absence of the others, it really was Lex. Now, I'm not saying like, oh, it
Yeah.
should have been him and not Salene or anything like that. I'm fine with it being Salene. It's just if you're going to make it be Salene, do something interesting with it. But he was far more primed for that role than Salene, given
Right.
it's what he's been chasing since we literally met him. And he was just never up to the task. So that would have been great for his arc too. Or he and Salene running the Mallrats together.
That's
My
what I was
God,
going to say.
that
Yeah,
could
I
have
mean,
been great too.
imagine if Lex had actually asked Celine for help, because that is a complete 180 for him. Coming to, because we know that Lex is a misogynist, but he's a misogynist insofar as ... And I think him coming to Celine and basically saying, help me, I'll give you some tasks. And like you say, them running it together and it being that hint of when Amber and Lex ran the Mallrats in the beginning, that callback, it would have been really interesting. And then also, another thing I want to say is how many times Amber comes back and just assumes she's still in charge. And for Celine and Lex to push back on that and be like, listen, we are open to your suggestions and we welcome them because you know what you're talking about. But don't think you can push either of us out of the circle on this.
Yeah, there's just so many places they could have taken it. And they just didn't want to take it anywhere that could have been interesting. They took it in the laziest directions they could have. And I think it would have been so poignant to see Salene and Lex reach that point where it's like, we're the only ones left. And if we don't figure out how to do this, everything we fought for, everything we've been through, and everything we've lost will be in vain. And those two getting it together and leading together and like saving what's left of everything they've ever known, that would have been an awesome season. Like, again, they don't have to succeed. It just would have been awesome to watch them try and to be working together and to take their relationship into this whole new dynamic of what they've been through, but let's keep things as shallow as possible and as meaningless as possible. And then be shocked when the audience just doesn't care.
Right, yeah, let's move on because we could talk about this forever because oh, missed opportunity button, pressing it hard.
This is Virtual Stocks brought to you by CityNet. These criminals were responsible for turning off the power which plunged the city into darkness.
Siva arrests random casino goers for the sabotage of the power, and they face punishment via CityNet, which is being thrown tomatoes, rotten eggs, or mud. Chloe points out to Sammy that it's all real, not just a game. This makes him like it even more. So, panel, what do you make of the interaction here between Chloe and Sammy, especially considering how Sammy was originally terrified of all the experimentation?
Well, I like how Chloe has been dropping every now and then really, really concerning views. And she's been saying really concerning things that she's obviously picked up from Ved and spending time with the technos. And I like how, without noticing it, her character has really started to become quite hard. I mean, look, we can all talk about how this is not the Chloe we know. Okay, so this version of Chloe, let's call her 2.0. Okay. She has been espousing really, really, really a really sinister viewpoint that's all based on, privilege and crime and punishment. And I don't hardly some of the characters I've noticed, but essentially they've gone, it's that new boyfriend she's spending time with, right? But there's something quite dark here, and I think it's interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it would have been even better if it was something they explored. On the surface, it doesn't really matter that Chloe has turned into a Nazi because they don't do anything with the fact that she's turned into a Nazi. So it's just like, yeah, this is disturbing that Chloe could be espousing such views so thoughtlessly, and she's fully aware of the evil and doesn't care about the evil
Mm,
that she's aware of. That's messed up. But they don't do anything with it, so why should
no.
we care that this is
Mm,
what Chloe has become? This is what Chloe has gone. It's just like, shame what they did to her, you know? Like,
yeah.
they don't do anything with it, even though, like you said, there's tons of potential, because this is really sad and disturbing of where this girl has ended up in her thought process. And it makes perfect sense she's ended up here, but we're never going to explore it, so I don't care.
Mm. I mean, as for Sammy, his writing's so all over the place. I mean, yeah, we saw him, he was absolutely terrified when he saw the experiments. But then he was okay seeing Lex as a gladiator. I mean, I think it's just another example of just the way the writing is all over the place for a lot of these characters. He's a younger kid, so maybe he doesn't understand the full implications of it all. Maybe he just doesn't care.
Mm.
I mean, I think when you scratch the surface, the only thing that keeps Sammy upright is the actor that plays him. I think they've got a good young actor, so he manages to imbue Sammy with emotion and he kind of makes him feel real, but the writing doesn't do that.
Yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
Like, it doesn't really matter what he's expressing, is even though, again, this actor is giving it everything he can, they
Mm,
don't do anything with this. They're not exploring any of these concepts of a child who was terrified by this, traumatized by this, and is like, cool, I want to be a part of torturing people. And, like, there's stuff you could do with that. They're not going to. So I don't know why I should waste my energy trying to see the meaning in it, because there isn't any.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say actually that goes for most of the writing in this season. They are just gifted with some quite very talented young actors who pull it across the line, and that's it. Because the characterization for most of these characters is all over the place. And you made a great point, Liz, that it was plot moving character.
Yeah. And for me, I'm just like, okay, I recognize that, and I'm just not invested. If you are going to take the lazy way out to tell your story, get your story out faster. It's efficient, but the detriment is that you're going to lose viewers who actually do care about that stuff.
Mm,
And by the time your ratings have fallen, you're going to be shocked, and you're not going to know how to backpedal on that, 'cause that's the philosophy
mm.
you took on. And your philosophy was progress of the story, style over substance. And okay, that you have every right to do that, but don't be surprised when much of the audience says, okay, well, I preferred substance, I'm leaving, this isn't for me anymore. And I'm sorry, that came out far more belligerent than I meant it to.
No, I don't think so. I think we all were a bit disappointed
Mm.
because the thing about the tribe was it was character. They wrote some brilliant characters and characters that have stayed with us for almost 30 years when you think about when season 1 came out the first time. And that's the thing. It's that clutch of characters, not even the world building, just the people that they wrote that we felt so connected to. And it's sad when you get to season 4 and it's like this. They don't care about anything. They don't care about the world building. They don't care about the characters. It's always on to the next idea, but we're not going to flesh it out properly. And it's just sad. It's sad that it's come to this. It's like watching your favourite pub burn down.
Having stayed behind in the casino after spotting Lex, Siva and Lex have a heart-to-heart, apologizing to each other and reconciling. Despite Siva's earlier assertion to Ebony, she couldn't forgive him for what he had done. Does anyone care about the pair's reconciliation here?
I hate this. I hate it. I hate how easily she takes him back. I hate it. I hate the way he never gives her a proper apology. I hate this isn't on the back of the previous episode where he essentially came to her place of work and was shouting, you're the reason why I haven't got a job anymore. And I think, yeah, we spoke about how Siva, it's quite sad about the treatment that Lex has given her. But to be honest, girl, value yourself more. Value yourself more. If this is all you set your value on, this is how he's going to treat you. If you let him cheat and then just come back in like it's no big deal and not even apologize, and that line where he said I was going easy on you, oh my God, I wanted to put his head in a blender. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I agree with all that. No lies were told. I will say the only thing I did like about it was I did appreciate a mature conversation between two people. Like if this was actually a good relationship, that had, a messed up action, I appreciated the way they talked to each other about it. I appreciated just two people in a relationship having a genuine conversation about their issues, taking accountability, apologizing to each other for the wrongs they believe they committed against that person. I'm not saying this is great. I'm not saying it's well done. I'm not saying it's healthy for Lex and Siva. They're not the dream couple. Just that I appreciated this conversation because we get so few of them ever. In
Yeah.
fact, I think the last real mature conversation between two lovers that we've gotten was it Lex and Tyson?
Lex and
Like
Tyson.
one of the last times you had two people who were
Yeah.
like, we have a conflict. Let's just talk about it and find, okay, this works for us. Awesome. Moving on. You know what I mean? I did appreciate that. I just liked that. Especially when almost all the relationship drama is the most lame duck Disney
Yeah.
Channel drama. I just appreciated two people who are quote unquote supposed to care about each other, talking to each other like they do and respect the other person and actually want to move on with this person. And that means owning up to the wrongs and you know what I mean? Like just stating the case, setting your boundaries, acknowledging what happened. And this is what's gonna, it's like, okay, I thank you. I wouldn't have forgiven him, but I'm not Siva. So if you're gonna do it, this is one of the better ways to do it. That's all I'm saying. Like, I don't want it misconstrued that I'm rooting for this. Just that if you're going to have two people move forward after something like this at least was one of the better ways to show his gotten them there.
Yeah, and that's the frustrating thing about this. Because as you say, you're getting close to an adult conversation with two people that essentially have got a lot of baggage. She's got a psychotic ex-husband. He's two wives down. They're not young. I mean, they are young, but they're not sort of starry-eyed, young and in love. And their relationship is quite serious. The stakes are really high for both of them. But yeah, my God, just value yourself more, Steve, I'd say. Because he's not going to treat you well if you allow him to do this. And it does make you wonder, like, given how Lex is now, what does Steve see in him?
We've covered this. I got nothing for you. I don't know.
No.
We've talked about the possibilities
Yeah.
of what it could be. And I'm done caring about why she likes him. And like, this is where we are. I'm just like, okay, fine. This is who she wants. This is the guy. So at least own it, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. I wish I had a good answer for you, Tamsin. I don't.
I mean, the only other thing you can say is that, Siva stands by her convictions. She essentially did what she said with Ebony, which is, she was quite mature about it. She was prepared to take him back. She wanted him back, and she didn't kind of hold it over him. So at least you can say, she's consistent in that way.
Yeah. And I do think it does at least go somewhere for Siva. I'll give it credit there. This does actually shape so much of Siva's character arc. She is willing to give people who've done her dirty another chance. And that's what she keeps doing through most of her story. She just wants these people to love her and show her respect and care for her. And part of her arc is realizing that you can't keep trying with people who don't respect you, who don't give you the love you so obviously deserve, and that she finally reaches the breaking point and cuts all these people out of her life. Lex, her sisters, like, that's part of her arc. I'll give it that. At least it doesn't just go nowhere. It is something that's consistent with Siva's character. She is the first to be like, we can make this work. Let's try again, and finally reaching the point of some people are just too toxic and you've got to cut them out of your life. And because you're not afraid to do it alone anymore, because she was. That was all Siva, that was the very definition of her. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be left to try and struggle in this life by myself. And so I will take the scraps that anyone is willing to give me if it means I'm not alone, to reach the point and say, you know what, being alone is not the worst thing. And I deserve better and I'm going to go get better. And she does. It's a shame how her story ends because of all these freaking toxic people that she tried to cut out of her life so she could have a better one. But at least her arc went somewhere. And this just is. So I can give it that, this isn't just for nothing, at least when it comes to Siva.
And
she does give this man a chance and he ruins it, just like she gave her sisters a chance and they ruin it. And she finally is like, you know what?
Well, that's the hill that I'm prepared to die on. The hill I'm prepared to die on is Siva's ending should have been staying in Liberty, running the saloon, and carving out something for herself.
And if the show was deep, it could have actually been making a comment on how toxic people will destroy you. Like going no contact is sometimes, granted, it wasn't really a thing we talked about back then, but in this day and age where it's become far more common for people to admit, I'm going no contact with these toxic members. Siva's a perfect example of why you have to.
Yeah.
Because they'll just destroy you. They'll take you down with their toxicity.
Yeah. And the ending for Java being the ending for Java, we could all talk about that. But the ending for Siva, my God, no. The ending for Siva should have been, she stays in Liberty in the saloon. And I'm going to die on that hill. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to find anyone who's going to argue with you on that. I think you're safe. I think you're safe with that one.
Good. I'm not a fighter. I'm a runaway and crier.
That leads us to our final thoughts of the episode. Pride discusses his concerns for Salene with Jay, who tries to reassure him that she's in a different situation from Amber and should be safe. Ebony, of course, overhears him talking about how amazing Amber is and makes up her mind.
I will accept your proposal. I will be your wife.
So yeah, what do you make of the end of this episode and the lead up to Ebony's decision?
Okay, so it's just been an episode that's full of not just generic but contrivances and, Jay and Pride just happening to talk about Amber and then Ebony overhearing it and being like, that's it, I know he loves her. He mentioned her, so that means he loves her. But I will say the one thing I did like from this whole thing was how Ram was completely blindsided by Ebony accepting his proposal. And it started from the moment she said, turn that off. And it was like, wow. And he did not, in a month of Sundays, expect her to come in and accept his proposal like that. And it was really interesting to see him in real time have to realize he's actually getting everything he wants and not be 100% prepared for it, be completely blindsided. And again, the theme of this episode has been a list of demands and the demands being fairly generic. So we saw Salene with her list of generic demands and Ebony's coming with a list of generic demands. And the thing about Ebony is the Ebony we know, they wouldn't have been generic. They would have been really specific demands. Like, I still want to be in control of the militia. I'm your top wife. I am an equal to you, etc., etc. She would have had, again, an itemized bullet point of what she wanted him to do. And seeing him basically say, yeah, no, everything, you can have it all. But no, it was all, again, a little bit generic, but I did like the acting from Tom. And I like the acting from Meryl. I thought they played it really well together. You went from, whatever was going on with Jay and Pride to this great scene between Ram and Ebony.
Yeah, agreed. The scene between Ram and Ebony is incredibly well done. Their chemistry, the reactions, the way they're playing off each other really well. And from the start, like you said, when she first walks in, just turn that off. I was like, she has my attention. You know, I shouldn't say she's underage, but I was just like, yeah, I'd want to marry her too. I would want to win that prize. There was just a commanding way she walked into that room, and I was like, Meryl nailed it, and Ram is reacting accordingly. As a kid, he's about to get everything he wanted. He never thought he was actually going to reach the mountain peak. This is a game that he has been desperately playing and wants, and that was probably part of the attraction, is that she wasn't easy. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
everything for him is usually easy, and she just wasn't. You know, and the glee. He is literally, his inner monologue is, "Don't screw this up. Don't screw this up. Don't screw this up." You know, he just. Oh my goodness, we're almost there. Oh my goodness, you know. So that's a great scene. I agree. Her demands are a little generic. But my favorite part is just how unsatisfied she is at the end, you know, because she's doing this out of pain, and she's trying to kill the pain, you know, and instead of feeling vindicated at the end, she realizes, no, this didn't make me any happier, and now I may have screwed myself. And that felt very real. And yeah, it hasn't made the pain of her, you know, Jay's supposed betrayal go away. She doesn't feel any better about any of it, you know, and so I liked that. So their scene was great. I thought that was awesome. I don't mind the idea behind the scene of Jay and Pride talking about Amber, and this just confirms for Ebony that maybe it's more than a fantasy for him, that he has very high feelings, and it's just more than she can bear. I don't mind the idea of it. I just think the execution of it is awful, and this conversation doesn't even feel real that they're having. And I'm like, no, I'm not buying this. This is not how people talk. Even the way Amber comes up in the conversation feels manufactured, and so I didn't care for it. I like the idea of it, but I don't like the way it played out. It was stupid. Didn't feel like this is how actual people would talk. The way Amber came into the conversation didn't feel natural either. And I was just like, okay, whatever.
It's embarrassing, actually, watching Jay and Pride. Even the way they were standing there, the stances, you know, they're looking around them and you're thinking, what are you doing? Just no.
But again, I like the through line of how Ebony gets from point A to point B.
Yeah.
You know, it's very clear how she goes from hurt because she believes this ridiculousness to, okay, like ignoring all the fact that she shouldn't believe it anyway. I do like that there's a thorough line of watching her thought process to the decision she makes. And even then there's an emotional fallout. So that's good. It just needed tweaking. It needed work, you know? There's just so few times they actually get an emotional through line right in this season that I got to point them out when I see them.
Yeah. I agree with you, though. I think Ebony, the minute she shook his hand, everything, she was having second thoughts on all of it. And like you say, you could see that it didn't make her happy. It was a rash decision in the moment that she was then living to regret in real time.
Yeah.
Great bit of acting. I mean, I'm going to say it. This is the missed opportunity of the Tribe, is you've got this great collection of actors who are all so young, and yet they're giving it their best, and you're not giving them anything to do anymore. Crimes. Dishonor on you, your Kang, all of you.
Yeah, no arguments here.
I went the full Mulan monologue, so you know it's serious. You know, we do not just pick that up casually.
Alright, cool. That brings Series 4, Episode 32 to a close. Thank you very much to the panel, and you can show your support by clicking on that like and subscribe, and following us on all the major platforms. You can also leave us a comment or get in touch if you'd like to take part in a future episode of the podcast yourself. Just search for thetribe.co.uk or Conversations on Eagle Mountain. You can also throw us a donation. Just head on over to buymeacoffee.com/thetribe.co.uk. And we're looking at time for episode 33. Until then, bye.
Bye.
Bye.